Hey guys, what's going on? This is my controversial take, or what I think is probably a controversial take, on event heroes and being the best units in this game. This gameplay doesn't really matter. I just wanted to showcase both event units, and this is post 23.2, so I trust that this is going to be a really short video, because they shortened the amount of time by increasing the health of the monsters. So I trust that, because I don't know how long this video is going to be, basically just till the end of this match. I'm pretty sure because they've shortened the time frame on all of the matches by increasing the health, I'm sure that they did a great job at doing that, and this is going to be a quick, short, to the point video. This is my controversial take on why I think event units are necessary for this game. Let me start off by saying these are the two best units in this game. And you can have a different opinion about the decks, the specific decks that beat these two decks, that beat a Riding Hood deck and beat a Genie deck. And you can have that opinion that if you play this deck, you can beat both of these decks, right? You can beat this, like if you specifically modify your deck to beat this deck, but lose to everything else, like, oh, this is not the best deck in the format, like Clock is, because they're both units, and Banshee is much better because it's unaffected by Clock, and both of these decks are, units that attack, and they're affected by Clock, and you can have that opinion. Just know that you're wrong. Because generally speaking, both of these decks, more times than not, will win. And they have the ability to lose, because anything has the ability to lose. If you played one-on-one basketball with Shaquille O'Neal, right, you could win. You could argue that he is really bad at free throws, and you could be like, yeah, he's really bad at free throws, and I'm really good. And it's possible, like, you could win, but more times than not, he's probably gonna beat you, right? And that's how I feel about anybody who tries to state that these aren't the best cards in the game. There is still currently, Meteor still exists. Corsair is not a percentage damage dealer anymore. And Meteor still exists, and the Meteor deck is still a deck, with Mari. Mari is still good, Meteor is still good, Portal Mage is still good. Despite those nerfs, it's still a deck, it still works. It is not like the Corsair nerf, that just completely doesn't really work, in regards to what it used to be. It's still a unit that does damage, but it is not anywhere near what it used to be. In terms of straight damage dealing units that do not do percentage damage, if you're talking Blade Dancer, Cultist, Inquisitor, these are the two top best damage dealing units if everything is equal. You could argue that this game only goes this long because of the crit and because of they have Zeus, and that's true, but those are things that you can get in this game, and if all things are equal, these are the two best decks in this game right now. And my defense for why I think that it's necessary that the two best cards are event units, and by event units, what I mean by that is that Riding Hood was only available during the Halloween event, and you could spend the amount of gems to buy the amount of spins on the wheel, where if you spun the wheel 100 times, you could get you were guaranteed a Riding Hood. If you spun it 100 times, you could get an extra Riding Hood, but you were guaranteed a Riding Hood if you spun the wheel 100 times. You need 15 units, 15 of the same unit, legendaries, to upgrade a legendary from 7 to max. And so if you spun the wheel 1,500 times, you were guaranteed a max Riding Hood. And that goes for Genie as well. During the New Year's event, if you spun the wheel 1,500 times, if you bought that amount of gems, you were guaranteed a level 15 max Genie. Riding Hood has now been given to the legendary pool, but currently Genie is not. So if you have a level 15 Genie, these are both pay-to-win cards. They are specific event unit cards that you could technically buy just outright. All you had to do was buy 1,500 spins in gems, and you could have both of these cards at max. Whereas, if you wanted to get a Hex to Legendary and get 15 of those, you have to buy the Archmage chest, and you have to buy, or the chest of choice, and you have to randomly get a Hex, and you have to randomly get 15 Hexes, and it's actually much harder to max out a Hex than it would be to max out a Genie or to max out a Riding Hood if you were around for those two events. It is actually much easier to do, to get a max version of both of these units, because it was guaranteed. When a legendary goes to the pool, it becomes much harder. And so these are both the best units in this game. Genie, Riding Hood, they're in every conversation for what are the best units in this game. And in a game of straight damage dealing, whether or not your unit can deal more damage than their unit, Riding Hood and Genie are the two most powerful units in this game, and they are both event legendaries. I think that this fact is important, and this is my controversial take on why. Imagine a world where, what if I told you that in my next tier list, Crystalmancer is the best unit in this game? Like, just imagine that kind of world. Like, what if I said in the next tier list, Crystalmancer beats out every legendary? They're changing Crystalmancer, it does base damage, 1 billion damage, and not the High Arcanist version, the Crystal Arcanist version. Each blast deals 1 billion damage at base that you can then modify with everything else that you can use to modify. Night Statue, Witch, Chemist, Dryad, your heroes, your equipment. The base damage of a single, bolt does 1 billion damage. It's also going to have a shield that is like the Dark Inquisitor shield. As long as you have a Crystalmancer on the field, it gains a shield, and it refreshes every 1 second. Also, it gives you 100 mana per kill. Also, it levels itself up. What if I said Crystalmancer is going to be the best damage unit in this game? Well, everybody has Crystalmancer. Everybody has max Crystalmancer. It's not very difficult to get a max Crystalmancer. You probably have a max Crystalmancer, right? What if that became the best unit in this game? And you already had it at max. What would be your reason for playing this game? I would question, what would be your reason for playing this game? If everybody has Crystalmancer, right? And it's the best unit, guess what the meta becomes? Everybody playing the exact same card. That there's no reason to play any other card. And the people that have a max Genie and a max Riding Hood, that is a very small percentage of people. It's people that specifically spent a large quantity of money in order to buy both cards. And by the time you obtain either Riding Hood or Genie at level 15, 5 more event units will have come out. A large quantity, something will be better than these 2 units. They will have changed in that amount of time. By the time that you get a level 15 Genie yourself, they will have changed and they will introduce a new event unit. And I feel like a lot of people look at this negatively. They think to themselves oh, I'll never, get the best thing because it's only for people that pay money, right? And I would argue that if the best unit was something that everybody could have, like a Crystalmancer, like if I told you that Crystalmancer is the best unit, far and away, best damage unit, nothing can beat it, and you have it and everybody has it, I think that would be a very stale meta, because there would, one, be no incentive for you to continue playing this game, knowing that you will win every match, And two, there would be no reason for you to play this game because why would you, if you had the best card, what would be your incentive to wanting legendaries? To increase your crit chance? Your crit percentage? Just cuz? Like, what is your incentive to upgrading your cards right now? It's to increase your crit percentage so that maybe theoretically your cards could theoretically maybe beat other cards because you don't have the best things. I would argue that it is a far bigger drive for a person in this game that they don't have the best things to want to upgrade all of their things, to want more legendaries, to want more better crit, to upgrade their stuff. There is a bigger drive knowing that you will lose as opposed to if you knew that you were going to win. If somebody with a 6,800 max crit account gifted you that account, what would be your incentive to play the game? What would be your incentive to playing through the pass, right? Because the pass is something that you actively want to play. You want to get those rune keys so that you can upgrade your cards. You want to get those page of secrets so you can upgrade your cards. You want to get the legendaries so that you can get more legendaries to upgrade those cards. You want to play this game specifically because you don't have everything. You don't have the best thing. You don't have the genie and the riding hood at max. You don't have the max Zeus, right? I would argue that it is a better motivation that you don't have everything, that you don't have the best things, than if you had the best things and always knew that you were guaranteed to win. I think that event units being the best cards in this game is incentive for you to play this game. I'll take Corsair, for example. Corsair, pre-patch, was one of the best units in this game. The Corsair Banshee deck was doing quadrillions amounts of damage that a Riding Hood and Genie could not match. It couldn't do. Riding Hood and Genie have a limit. If you take two Riding Hood decks, there is a limit to what they can do. They can only do so much because they are inherently just a damage dealing deck, and eventually you will not be able to gain stacks consistently enough to keep continuing with all of the monster's health that just keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. And eventually you will not be able to take down tribunals instantly. And if you can't take down a tribunal instantly, all of your units will level down. And getting leveled down that late in the game is detrimental, and that's usually how matches end. It's because somebody got tribunaled, and then they have to now upgrade their 6s back to 7s because they're not at max strength anymore. And to be that not at max strength, you start losing to the wave. And then if your next boss is a double tribunal, and you get double tribunaled again, and now you're at 4. And then the next boss is a Bedlam, and you can't take it down because you couldn't take down the wave. It just starts to compile, and Tribunal having the instant effect of you not being able to negate it, and not being able to if you can't insta kill a Tribunal, that is usually what kills games towards the end of games. I would argue that Corsair dealing quadrillions of damage and being able to literally just beat everything to the point where people had to run Frost just so that they could run Ice Walk for no reason other than to beat the Corsair deck. People were specifically slotting in Frost with Ice Walk just to combat that deck. It was so prevalent and like nobody could beat it. And Corsair didn't even have talents. What is a Corsair's play? As a Corsair player, what is your even incentive to getting talents? You already beat every deck. There is no incentive for you to want talents when you can beat every card with talents. What were they gonna do? Were they gonna add talents and make it even better? Like, at that point, everybody who had a Corsair, because everybody can have a Max Corsair, it is very easily attainable. You could have already have had a Max Corsair from a long time ago. What is your incentive to wanting an event unit? What is your incentive for playing this game? If you knew you had the best unit, what is your incentive for wanting a Riding Hood or wanting a Genie? If it's strictly worse. If you have a Riding Hood and a Genie, what is your incentive for wanting to build up Inquisitor or Blade Dancer or Demonologist? It's just for the better crit, but it's not for anything else beyond that. And at that point, it's just crit percentage. It's literally just, I want to increase my crit percentage so that my best deck can be better. That's your only incentive for wanting legendaries. And if you had every single card, there's no incentive, there's almost no incentive to even playing the game. I would argue that the reason why event units have to be the best, it's because they're the ability to obtain them as a free-to-play / season pass, paying person. It's so difficult to obtain a Max Genie or a Max Riding Hood or an event unit where you have to do spins on the wheel in order to get one. The reason why those are always gonna be the best cards, it's so that it gives you incentive to wanting to play this game. Wanting to upgrade your cards, wanting to try new things, wanting to push your cards. The amount of people trying to make Crystalmancer better, even though it's not great, and I will always argue that Crystalmancer is bad, but the fact that Crystalmancer being a good enough card to push into legendary, against legendary cards and beat them sometimes, that it's making people want to figure out how to play Crystalmancer better. Like, oh, should I use Gift of the Raven Witch? Should I use a growth tile with my High Arcanist Crystalmancer so that I can get better damage? Should I use Trapper or should I use Chemist? What talents do you use for Crystalmancer? How do you make Crystalmancer better? Should I use Mermaid so that I can protect Crystalmancer so it's like a Dark Inquisitor shield? Should I use Snowflake and go like Toxic Crystalmancer route, right? The fact that people are actively trying to make Crystalmancer good by figuring out ways to make it better, that is an important lesson in deck building that you will take with you and realize why all of these pro people are using the cards that they're using. Because I feel like a lot of people don't realize that these decks that pro people are using, like these talents, these specific talents, with this specific deck, using a Zeus, with these equipments, with these specific things, like, people think that they're just doing it randomly. Like, oh, why are they using Summoner? They should be using Trapper for the better defense and for the better, or the defense penetration and the slowdown. Like, they should use Trapper instead. You think these people don't have a max Trapper? These people have max everything. They are specifically using this because they understand that Summoner gives you better benefits. They're not using it because they don't have it. They're not using it because they didn't think about it. Anytime you watch pro people play, it's because they have everything and they have figured that this is the best version of this deck. Why do you think Efreet's Fire is the only thing you ever see? You think it's because they don't know how good Sultan is? The Sultanate is? No, it's because Efreet's Fire is just so much better. And that's why every single time you ever see a Genie deck being played, it's always Efreet's Fire. Do you think, like, the people use Alpha Wolf because they don't know how to use the other one? No. It's because Alpha Wolf is better. that if given the choice of the two, which one is better, Alpha Wolf is better. That's why everybody plays the one thing. Talents are supposed to give you an option to figure out, you know, which one is your playstyle, which one is your thing. But the people that are at pro level, the people who have spent the most in this game, the people who have max legendaries, max everything, they have already figured it out. But because you are not at that level, I trust that you're listening to this, you don't have max GD, you don't have max Riding Hood. Because you are not at that level, you have the ability to play this game. And I feel like playing this game, figuring out combinations, figuring out what works, figuring out that Crystalmancer, if you use a growth tile, it's a little bit better. If you use a witch with Gift of the Raven instead of being a toxic witch, and you use Gift of the Raven, it's a little bit better. Figuring out whether or not you should use Trapper or Chemist, which one works for you. Asking yourself questions, being able to play this game. I think that is what keeps you in this game. What keeps you in this game is not knowing everything. Not having everything. I feel like a lot of people argue against this game that, oh, if I don't have a max Genie, if I don't have a max Riding Hood, then I just can't play this game. And what's wrong about that is that you can. And it's actually more fun if you don't have a max Riding Hood, or if you don't have a max Genie, if you don't have all the things. This game is more fun knowing that you will not always win, because it pushes you to be better. It pushes you to want to play this game. And I think that that's important.